Michael Schumacher is seen by many as one of the greatest drivers to ever grace the sport of Formula 1. With 7 world championships and 91 race victories, Schumacher was seen as a god amongst men during his time in F1. Every great of Formula 1 has that one performance that reminds everyone why they are as highly regarded as they are. Lewis Hamilton has Silverstone 2008 or Brazil 2021. Senna has Monaco 1988 qualifying or his amazing comeback drive in Suzuka 1988. And even Michael Schumacher himself has drives like his 2012 Monaco pole at the age of 43, his 1998 four-stopper in Hungary, or his 1992 victory in Spa. However, there is one drive of his that constantly gets overlooked time and time again. Whether it's because of the young stars rising at the time or the amazing ending, it was a drive that showed Schumacher going absolutely to the limit and salvaging an amazing result from a seemingly unlikely qualifying spot in a car that was quite uncompetitive at the time he did it. My name is Intern, I talk wheel, and this is the story of Imola 2005. Michael Schumacher's masterclass in race pace. To fully understand the significance of this drive, we need to first fully understand a couple things. Number 1, Ferrari's situation at the time. Prior to 2005, Ferrari had won 6 straight World Constructors' Championships. The Schumacher-Barrichello combination with Ross Brawn and Jean Todt at the head were on a reign of terror, beating any competition that stood in their way. Unfortunately for this team, however, a change to the rules would stand in their way, and boy did they have a hard time moving it. This rule change made it so that teams could not change tires during a race unless there was a puncture, meaning that drivers could not pit for fresh rubber. This put Ferrari's Bridgestone tires at a disadvantage compared to teams like Renault and McLaren that ran the Michelins. Couple this with the fact that Ferrari's engine and gearbox prevented them from taking full advantage of that year's aero changes, it became quite evident that 2005 would be a year on the back foot for Ferrari. Number 2, the rise of new young stars. By 2005, Michael Schumacher was 36 years of age and had announced his retirement the year after in 2006. By this time, new stars like Kimi Raikkonen, Fernando Alonso, and Juan Pablo Montoya had made their names known in Formula 1 as the young stars that were set to carry the sport forward in a post-Schumacher era. Montoya had taken the fight to Michael from day one, battling with him in just his second ever race at the 2001 Brazilian Grand Prix, and battling with him for the 2003 title. Kimi Raikkonen would also battle with Michael Schumacher for that year's title in his third year of F1, missing out on the 2003 title by only 2 points. He had been plagued by reliability during his time at McLaren and showed promising speed of a future world champion. Then there's Fernando Alonso. Going from a Minardi driver to a Renault test driver to a race winner in the span of just his first 3 seasons, Fernando Alonso was evidently one of Formula 1's brightest young stars, and with an improved package for all 3 of these drivers in 2005, they all looked poised to win their first Formula 1 World Championship that year. Fast forward to round 4 of the 2005 championship, Imola. Fernando Alonso is coming off of 2 straight Grand Prix victories, and his Renault team is coming off of 3 straight, with teammate Fisichella winning the opening round in Australia. Kimi Raikkonen and McLaren had a slow start to 2005 with an 8th and 9th place in the first 2 races of 2005, but recovered with a 3rd place finish in Bahrain and was ready to start his title charge in Imola, evident when he took a stunning pole in the qualifying session, gapping 2nd place Alonso by over half a second. Montoya? A non-factor, unfortunately. Not because he was slow or anything, but because he got injured in his free time and missed Bahrain and this race. He was replaced by Alex Wurz. But you have to ask yourself though, where's Schumacher in all this? P14, which became P13 after Massa got a grid drop for engine penalties. Michael had a poor qualifying session with his hopeful lap ruined by a mistake relegating him down the grid. His teammate Rubens Barrichello qualified further up the road in 10th. The odds were against Michael and the pressure was on. His Ferrari had been nerfed. He qualified poorly on a track where overtaking was difficult, and he was surrounded by the die-hard tifosi that wanted nothing more than a Ferrari at least on the podium to celebrate at the end of the race. A point from this position would have been seen as a miracle for any driver, But Michael Schumacher just wasn't any driver. He was a 7-time world champion. Lights out and the Grand Prix had begun, and Kimi Raikkonen would maintain and extend his lead over second place Fernando Alonso. Michael, however, was still trapped in 13th, not making much of his start and possibly biding his time. The first domino in Michael's eventual charge fell 5 laps into the Grand Prix when Giancarlo Fisichella crashed out, promoting Michael to 12th. Domino 2 would drop on lap 8 as race leader Kimi Raikkonen had not only his lead, but his entire race evaporate in front of him after a hydraulic failure led him and the MP4-20 to a retirement. Domino 3 falls 18 laps in when teammate Rubens Barrichello suffers a retirement himself with a terminal car issue. Domino 4 is a bit different, however. It wasn't a retirement, it was more Jarno Trulli's existence. Around the same lap Rubens Barrichello retired, it was becoming increasingly evident that third place Jarno Trulli was not faster than the cars behind him, led by fourth placed Mark Webber. Trulli's pace compared to those around him was so off that second place Jenson Button had been 18 seconds clear of him in only 18 laps, while 7th place Jacques Villeneuve was only 4 seconds behind. Due to Imola not being a track that's friendly to the concept of overtaking, Trulli had a train of cars behind him, none of which could get past. This allowed Michael to close in on those in front of him as he awaited some clean air to unleash his true race pace. More cars began to pit and Michael goes opposite to them and stays out. By lap 26, Michael is one of 2 drivers in the top 10 yet to pit. This is where I must emphasize that we are in the refueling era. No one can change tires, but you can pit for fuel. By biding his time at the start and not pitting, Michael not only had fresher tires than those behind, he also had less fuel, which means less weight, which means more speed. This is where the charge begins. Michael, with the free air gifted to him by everyone in front of him pitting, kicks into another gear, setting the fastest lap on lap 25 and has his sights set on second place Jenson Button, who has already pit and is carrying a heavier fuel load. He boxes on the next lap from third place, and with a 9.5 second stop and more fuel added to his car, he exits the pits remaining in third place. With clean air and race pace alone, Michael has overcut 7 cars by staying out longer. The only cars left in front of him at this point is Jenson Button and leader Fernando Alonso. What would follow is what I consider to be one of the greatest masterclasses in race pace I have personally ever seen. On lap 28, Michael is 22 seconds behind Jenson. By lap 31, the gap went from 22 seconds to 17, gaining 5 seconds on Jenson in 3 laps. By lap 37, Michael has whittled a 17-second gap into 6 seconds. With 20 laps left in the San Marino Grand Prix, it becomes evident to even Fernando Alonso that Michael Schumacher has potential race-winning pace. Renault responds by pitting Fernando Alonso from the lead to third, knowing that Jenson and Michael had to stop again. While all of this is happening, Michael has caught up to the back of Jenson Button, but due to lapped cars and the claustrophobic nature of the circuit, he's unable to find a way past. However, with Alonso in third, Michael needs to get by Jenson in order to make an overcut attempt for the lead to work. With 16 laps left, a lapped car in front of Jenson gives him some dirty air and slows him down, and Michael sees the gap and dives down Variante Alta, catching Jenson lacking and taking the lead of the race, and in 1 lap puts a second between himself and the BAR driver. Jenson pits, but Michael had to keep pushing. The gap to Alonso was only 11 seconds and he would need more to make the overcut work. He pushes as hard as he can and pits with 13 laps to go, exiting the pits right behind Fernando. What ensued afterwards was a brilliant tussle between 2 of this sport's most talented gladiators, as Michael tries every trick in the book to get past. Alas, he fails. Alonso puts on a defensive clinic on the 7-time world champion and holds on to win his 3rd Grand Prix in a row that season, extending his lead in the championship, and Michael Schumacher meanwhile takes 2nd, his first of only 5 podiums that year. In 62 laps, we all saw Michael go from 13th to finishing less than a second behind the leader on a track difficult to overtake. We saw Michael overcut 7 cars on pure race pace alone and elevate himself from an unlikely 10th to a determined 3rd. We saw Michael go from 22 seconds behind Jenson Button, passing him in only 18 laps. We saw Michael almost overcut the leader himself and come just short of a race victory around one of the tightest tracks on the calendar. We saw one of the best drivers in this sport's history put down one of the greatest displays of race pace this sport has ever seen. And many people just forgot. Whether it was a discussion about Alonso's fiery streak or Kimi's bad luck, Michael's drive that day goes under the radar as a newsworthy topic, but hopefully this video has shed more light on it and gives it the credit it deserves. My name is Intern, I talk wheel, and thanks for watching.